DeFi and Eric Sheetsaber. We're going to be talking through this MLB 10-game slate. I might be a little bit rusty, been gone for a few days, but it's good to be back here. And Sheets, how's the DFS world been treating you?
So a couple of announcements for those of you who haven't seen. I interviewed Vincent Gelati, who is Gelati LOL, yesterday, and it was really, really great. I mean, he's probably the best. I keep thinking I found the best one, and then the best person who I think tells me that someone else is better than him. So this is the top of the heap as far as I'm concerned. And a really nice long talk about that gambling, DFS, League of Legends in general. He's a really, really sharp dude. We put it up on our site. It's also on the YouTube channel. We tweeted it and all that. So that was really good. I also was on this GP3 Golden Pants, whatever podcast the other day. That just came out. I was talking less about, some about DFS, but also about poker and just kind of gambling in general. So we have that kind of stuff going on. As far as DFS goes, I just win League of Legends every day. That's what I do. So I won that single entry again yesterday for 2100. Got that one done, and it's a golf. I would say sweat. It's a sweat because I can't get cut today, so that's good news. But I do have a bunch of Morikawa, so that's good, and I do have a decent amount of Kim, so that's good. So we'll see how it all plays out. No cut events are pretty weird. Yeah. What else? Baseball yesterday. So we'll get into that. I actually just tweeted this. You weren't here yesterday. So yesterday, basically the last 3 days was everybody just getting not annoyed, but being surprised that like 100% owned Dodger stack just doesn't win the slate every day, right? Mm-hmm. It's not that easy, guys. I mean, like it just doesn't work that way. And yesterday, so it was kind of a long story, but I was supposed to go to the Yankee game yesterday, but for like months I thought there was a 7 p.m. game. So that's how I made plans. I had clients coming, the whole thing. And then literally like 2 days before, they told me the game was at 4 p.m. and I couldn't go. Didn't go yesterday. And the whole slate was in the afternoon. And Stacy, my wife, says, listen, you couldn't even go if you could do it. It's freaking 1,000,000 degrees out there, right? Yeah. What are you doing, right? So in the stream yesterday, I was saying, listen, you guys want a really, really good pivot off the Dodgers and Houston. This is going to be the pivot off of them. Mrs. Sheet says it's really freaking hot out here. And I'm sweating from walking. It's 100 freaking degrees out here. I would take Baltimore and I would take the Yankees, and they combined for a 400 run yesterday.
Oh, amazing!
So we'll see how the weather, and the weather today, by the way, is even hotter. It's like a heat index of like 106. It's an evening game, so it's a little different, but still. And that's pretty much. I've actually been waiting to catch for something good in baseball for a little while, and just continuing to work on my process and. We'll get going. I did MMA content is already out from yesterday. I did a best plays video. We'll do a betting breakdown today. We'll do a lineup construction video tomorrow. We got NASCAR coming up. So we've been holding the fort for you.
I appreciate it.
You've been around. So I guess we'll just share my screen and we'll kind of get motivated.
Yeah, let's we'll get going. I did want to point out something also for all of the subscribers. Like Sheets' projections are now on our SaberSim.
I heard that. That.
It's awesome. And now I'm looking at my stuff and I can I can use yours and Goldie's as my reference point and use SaberSims if I want to, which is wonderful.
That's great. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah. So it's for those of you guys who are members, just scroll far to the right. You can drag them right over to the front. You can drag them wherever you want, and they've got everything. So we're ready to get after it. All right.
So I'm going to start with this first game since this is the aforementioned Yankees. So I'm going to wish a whole bunch of people luck today. Okay. And listen, I really do root for people, especially if I'm not going to win. I see that Carlos Rodon is projected to be like one of the top values on the slate and 25% owned plus. Yeah. You guys want to play Carlos Rodon in 100-degree weather against the Braves with ownership? That is all you're more than welcome to do it. It certainly looks like a decent play on the sheets. And yes, you always biased against Yankee pitchers anyway, and I'm especially biased against Carlos Rodon. But there is no chance in hell that I'm playing Carlos Rodon as chalk in 100-degree weather against the Braves. So that's that. Now the other things on the other side of this, you have Sale, who's got a similar issue. He looks really good also, but he's got the same problem. It's 100 degrees here also, and the Yankees can hit the ball as well. Now again, Sale probably has more strikeout upside in general than Rodon, but I think this is a funny slate when these two guys are rated near the top of the heap as far as who people are going to play. That's my opinion. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think we're on a similar page here. It is interesting though. If you look at the most owned pitchers today, I think there's pretty good risk for most of them. So that's the only thing I'd throw in there. That I have both these guys in consideration, but it's probably not going to happen with Rodon for me. I would consider Sale just because the strikeout upside I think is pretty high, and that's where I'm at. Even with the the good weather and everything, the game's only got a 7.5 total, just because of the strong pitching and everything. And I think that I'm probably just gonna most likely end up off of it. If anything, probably would be Chris Sale, but even that I don't feel awesome about. So yeah, tough spot here, and it's gonna be a tough slate pitching wise, except for one or two spots. All right, Boston and Cincinnati.
So Crawford and Abbott, they're not really showing up for me. I actually have Crawford as kind of very fringy, like 10th best pitcher or something like that. That's kind of where I have him. But aside from that, I don't think I want to mess with that. And Abbott even actually have is okay also. It's a tough park to play pitchers in general, and both these teams get hit a little bit. So I'm probably going to be off of the pitching here. As far as the hitting goes, like my initial look here actually does have Boston as top value overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just kind of leave it at that. And I'm not going to leave it at that. I'm also going to add that they are also looking to be tied for the highest owned stack, for me at least. The other one's a little surprising. We'll get to that later. But so Boston does look to be top value here, and I'll probably end up getting some of it, and probably off the pitchers.
Yeah, this is. I think you could certainly make a case for everything here, at least in my opinion. I think that Abbott is. I think Abbott is kind of interesting. I think there's upside against this Boston team with lefties, and you look at the reason you got super cheap Boston, but down at the bottom. But they're the cheap ones are cheap for a reason. Bobby Dahlbeck is hitting like 5 cents. I don't know. He's hitting literally like 50. Yeah. So yeah, I think I probably end up with maybe there's some pieces because Boston is cheap. I don't think I'm going to get to Cincinnati. It is also 100 degrees like in Cincinnati today, for what it's worth, and that's it feels like there'll be some home runs there. But I have enough respect for both pitchers where I'm a little bit hesitant. And if I had to pick a side, I guess I'd pick Boston. And if I had to pick a pitcher, oddly, I'd probably pick Abbott here. But probably going to be one I end up on the outside looking in unless I can find something that I don't like. It's a great hitting situation, so I might have to revisit this one. But I'm as of right now not planning to play it. All right, Cleveland. So we've got Toronto, Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah, so Toronto for me is actually the second highest rated value at significantly lower ownership than Boston or a couple of other teams. So Carlos Carrasco, and I've talked poorly about him since he was on the Mets as well. And he definitely does have enough tricks to keep people off his ass. But I still like Toronto here. You get some cool value. You get that Barger guy at 2,200 if you want. You always have this weird decision. Well, it's not really a decision, but sort of. When you play Toronto on DraftKings, whether you play Varsho or Guerrero, I always love to play them both, but you can't. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously Guerrero is more expensive, but it depends on what you want to do. Jansen, the catcher, looks good. The Schneider seems to be a guy who always seems to get 14 points in the lineup when I'm not expecting it. So I do like the Toronto guys. As far as the pitching, actually, I didn't get to either of them, and I wasn't going to get to any of Cleveland.
Yeah, I actually think that both stacks are kind of interesting. These are probably the two that I'm definitely okay with of the stacks we've talked about. They're the ones I like the best. I have Toronto ahead of Cleveland, but I do think Cleveland is in play as well, and it's a good matchup for both these guys. And I will. I used to make a lot of money off of playing Carlos Carrasco, and now we're trying to make money off of stacking against him. I think that seems very reasonable today. So these this isn't my absolute favorite stack, but they're both pretty high. I have Toronto a little bit better than Cleveland personally. All right, moving over to what is it? Seattle at what is the next one?
Miami.
Yeah, Seattle, Miami. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. So Kirby doesn't have that 12 strikeout upside that maybe Sale has, or he's not as cheap as Rodon. But I mean, this is the easier matchup of that. You know what I mean? Like I think this is like the cash game play. You want to know the truth? You just play George Kirby and just kind of take the win, but just take the better matchup. And not worry about getting like a 6, which he could get, which these guys could get in bad, if the fortunes turn or get torn against them. So I do like Kirby, and it's interesting. You usually like to play the righties against Seattle, but I don't know, Trevor Rogers at 5,400 at sub 10% ownership. I don't know exactly what I want to do with the hitting though. I haven't really identified a team that I really want to pay up for yet. So we'll see if I even need to do that. But if I get to a couple of Trevor Rogers things in here, I guess I wouldn't turn it away. But what I'd rather do is the opposite. I'd rather play Seattle. I think. I'd rather play the Seattle righties against the lefties. So I like Seattle. I like Seattle's pitching, and that's pretty much it. I like Kirby and Seattle and Trevor Rogers, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually don't. I don't mind again. It depends on what you'd want to play. I guess what you'd need to spend up for. But I do think Rogers is at least in play. And I agree that Seattle is definitely an offense I would consider. It's, again, not a great hitter's park on a big slate where there's a lot of good hitting conditions and all that stuff. So maybe it's not really like my favorite spot. But I do think for value, even whether you're playing them as a stack or not, they have cheap bats. And, Garver, 3,600 is reasonable a catcher. Locklear is still only 2,600. So the stack actually works out really nicely as far as being inexpensive. I still think there's other things I like a little bit better. But and I think Kirby, I agree, is more of a cashy play. I probably won't end up using him in my main lineup tonight because I probably want a little bit more of the risk. I think there's some, even the Chris Sale and everything. These guys have tremendous strikeout upside. Kirby, like you mentioned, that's just really he doesn't have the same strikeout upside as probably their top pitchers on the slate. So, but overall, I'm fine with him. I think it is more of a cashy play, and I am okay with Seattle, but I prefer the mini stack versus a full stack personally.
I'll tell you this. I mean, you go into this next game, you want a guy that can get 30, who's not going to be 25% owned. I mean, I'm looking at Nathan Eovaldi here. I kind of like this idea. I mean, he's 8,900. I currently have him rated a little bit below all these, these other guys, but I mean, not that much below. And he throws at 100 sometimes, and he can get stuff going, and you can certainly get something going against Kansas City at times. So I actually do like him quite a bit. And then on the other side, Singer, it's just a tough matchup in this spot here. So I don't think I'm going to get down to him. So for me, it's going to be, I'm probably going to, I don't say force City Eovaldi, but let's say I'll be very pleasantly pleased if I get a bunch of them. And as far as the hitting goes, probably not going to get to either side.
Yeah, no hitting, I don't think, for me here. I'm totally fine with Eovaldi, but again, I feel like it's a very similar play to Kirby to me. Just probably going to be a little bit lower owned. And Casey's, this offense that they swing early in counts. There are some strikeouts in there, but overall, I think this game is probably going to be one I stay away from. I considered the Brady Singer thing for about 5 seconds this morning before we got on, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Although I don't think it's like the worst idea in the world. I just don't think you need to necessarily be that creative on this slate. So I'm probably going to end up more on the outside looking in with this game in general, personally. All right. Baltimore and Houston.
Yeah. So I don't know who's pitching for Houston. I have nobody listed. So I presume it's going to be some kind of either bullpen game or something. I don't know. Which is a little annoying because I actually I do like Baltimore. I mean, I like Baltimore every time they're playing in a park where you can hit, that being every game at home, and like at Yankee Stadium, and then you go straight to at Houston. You know what I mean? Like in Baltimore, I don't know who Houston's going to throw at these guys, whatever. And bullpen games are usually tough to get after, but I don't know. I'm kind of down with trying some Baltimore here. I think the Houston's hitting well enough for me to stay off of Rodriguez as a pitcher at 9,600. But I think Rodriguez is pitching well enough for me to probably stay off of Houston. So I probably will take a shot at some Baltimore, unless you tell me that Houston's got this sneaky trick bullpen again that's going to just keep me just keep Baltimore swinging at weak stuff the whole day. I don't know.
No. I think it's a fair enough play. The Baltimore thing. I think it makes sense. It's not quite as good a hitter's park as their home park, but I like whenever we get a chance to play Baltimore because they're not on the main slate so much because they're usually in that 640 slot that we don't get to play when they're at home. I have Baltimore. I'd like to get some clarification about whoever ends up pitching though before I figure it out, because if it is going to be just a bunch of 2-inning, 3-inning things, it's going to be hard for me to talk myself into it. If it's going to be anybody who they're going to try to let throw 75 or 80 pitches, who's anybody who I don't recognize, I'll probably end up playing Baltimore. There is a line for this game, and this Jake Bloss might end up being the pitcher, but I don't know if that's just an opener. So I'd have to look a little further into it. But Baltimore definitely on the list as of right now for me. That's the only thing I have in this game. And then we get to a potential weather situation in Colorado where there's some scattered storms around and things like that. We'll have to check back in on it later, but I know what you're going to mention. So get into it, Cheats.
Well, they usually play in Colorado. That's the one thing. The other thing is that there's a couple of things going on here. First of all, I don't want to say scared off, but yesterday I was talking through this Dodger game, and I was saying that, you know what, I mean, I really don't want to play the Dodgers anyway as chalk, and because there was some weather concerns, I invented some universe where the weather was going to affect the game. But then it really came back to get me, because when I ran my first build, I got like 50% stone from the Dodgers. And I'm like, you know what? If there's weather concerns, I'm just going to X him out. So I X'd him out, which basically he was like the only guy that scored any points yesterday. And he was great. He was great. So here's the deal. I mean, it's very similar. So Washington is rating as the top value because they're on the road in Colorado. And, they're facing Dakota Hudson, who, has frustrated many a stacker in the last four outings. He's hasn't really given up all that much, even though, he hasn't done great, but he's been keeping chalky stacks off his ass, so to speak. So Washington's going to be really, really popular. They're going to be really high owned. And I actually sort of want to play him because I'm just kind of, again, only because I saw what Dakota Hudson does, and the guy just walks through the freaking raindrops.
Yeah.
And I think Washington could put up 15. You know what I mean? Like, not really going to be 15, but I really think that if people forget, you know what I mean, to play too much of Washington, I'm going to be on it. The only annoying thing, well, I say annoying, like Abrams is still a very, very day-to-day. He sat in the last game, so I don't know what kind of lineup you're going to get. But I think Washington's fine. And the other real, the real big talking point is the Hurts. Now, you weren't around for this, but I
was there.
Oh, you were. So I forced myself into playing some of him against Miami, and boy, oh boy, look at that. I mean, that's and
some real numbers,
dude. I don't know. I think that's good enough for me. You know what I mean? I think I'll take a shot. You can listen. This is certainly not the place to pitch, and he could certainly get destroyed. But 13 strikeouts, 84 pitches, 6,300. I'm just gonna have to take some of it.
Yeah, I think that this is probably the interesting. This is the interesting one. Like, I felt like when I first looked at this slate, I said, okay, if I had played two lineups, I probably would play Hurts in one and probably stack Colorado in the other.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
That's sort of the way that I would look at it, and I do think that it's really hard to resist when Dakota Hudson's on the mound, because he just I mean, again, the strikeout stuff isn't there, and to play that dangerous game in Colorado is tough. I would say that it's not like the best hitting weather we've seen, with assuming that they do get it through. It's 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left. It's just to throwing it out there because, look, if you're trying to find a reason to fade it any little part, that's something I look at. But I still think that the Colorado side will be low owned because of Hurts in part. And I am going to I would probably just take the lower ownership on Colorado here, even though I do like Washington as well. And as always, if you want to just not eliminate the risk, but get it all together. I think you could stack both these teams, and I don't think you'd be worried entirely. Like if you did like a 4-4 or a 5-3 for Colorado, I don't think you'd have to worry about ownership. With in the Washington case, if you're going to play Washington a 5-man stack and then use the top pitchers, I think you're going to probably run into some issues in the long run. Probably not the optimal way to play, but so for me, I like Colorado, and I have Hurts as my spend down if I do decide to go that route. But I'd like to, even though they get the games in, they do delay sometimes, and then they play him until way late. So kind of makes me a little bit nervous for Hurts. At least he's super cheap. That's the only thing.
Well, look at this. Right. He's only the second pitcher in history to record 13 strikeouts and no walks in one of his first 3 career outings.
That's incredible. Nice. All right. Well, if you like Hudson, King of Smack, you go ahead and play Hudson. I have zero. I do like the lefties for Washington. I agree though. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Sheets. Do you have San Diego or Oakland?
And Minnesota, Oakland, as we've talked about for the last, it seems like month. I mean, there's just certain spots that that always look good. Any pitcher against the White Sox for openers, specifically righties. Any pitcher against the A's, that's what we have right here. And Paddock always seems to get these matchups. He had Oakland in his last one, but he got freaking lit up in this one. So that's actually pretty interesting. And they gave him a $300 price increase as a reward for getting smoked. Yeah, I mean he looks okay. I mean he looks pretty good actually. One of the top 5 pitchers I have on the slate, sort of. Maybe his last outing will definitely, I imagine, will keep his ownership down somewhat. I mean, because people have been looking for him to kind of fade away from the start like all season, but he's been, listen, he's doing all right. 15% ownership seems pretty reasonable. So, I mean, I'll get to him. I don't think he's going to be my top choice, but I think I'll definitely get to him. And with respect to Estes, again, that's something that other people play, I guess. That's just not for me. And as far as the hitting, not currently getting to either side.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the hitting here. It's, probably the worst hitting conditions on the slate, just like it's, cold in Oakland. Chris Paddock is, I think, I was actually, to be honest with you, like surprised by not just the projected ownership, but surprised by the projected result and surprised by the K prop surprised me.
What is it?
The K expected to see is 5.21. I would have thought it would be over 6.
Wow.
I just would have thought it because it's Oakland. I know they hit him last time, but I actually really like Paddock. So I mean, not in general necessarily, but today. So I actually do have Paddock as one of the priority pitchers, one of the top 5, like you mentioned. Actually, I think I'm one of the top 4. So I'm willing to go with this one. He hasn't been nearly as good lately as he was, earlier in the season, but I do believe the strikeout upside is there and the price is reasonable enough. So I actually have Paddock as right now. I think I've got him number 4. Yeah. Of all the pitchers on the slate. Like I said, most of the other pitchers you're running into tough matchups. He's really not, he's got the easiest matchup, but at the same time, doesn't mean Oakland can't go crazy like they did last time against him. I just don't see it as a likely outcome. So Paddock very high for me. All right.
Now, so Dylan Cease came strolling into Citi Field as huge chalk in his last outing and got lit up by the Mets. And that can happen. You know what I mean? Like he gives up the long ball. Sometimes he's not the best around the plate, and they just took it to him. And you get a chance right back again at a good projection, at a good rating, and I currently have him as the highest owned pitcher on the slate at about 30%. He's home, which is good. The matchup is good. So yeah, I guess I like him again. He does always have a good strikeout upside. Pitchers are going to get hit. That's what happens. That's why he's not 13,000. You can't have full upside and never lose, right? I do like him. I'm not getting to any Colin Ray here. And as far as the hitting goes, I imagine I'd be seeing some San Diego show up a little bit, but not really. So really no. Boy, why am I not hitting any San Diego? Anyway, no San Diego for me. Just the pitching.
Yeah, I'm on board with C's as the top pitcher. These guys, if you look at C's, a lot of these guys, they just don't, they don't have those 2 horrible outings in a row as often as you might think. It really doesn't happen. It's the weirdest thing. And I like him to bounce back here. I think he's the best pitcher on this. I think he's the best pitching option on the slate. And if I played one lineup, he would be in it. So That's pretty much where I'm at in this one. I do think San Diego, if you're playing the lottery, is a good sneaky stack. They're going to be really low owned, and they're cheap enough. So I like San Diego as a lottery stack. Probably not going to play enough lineups myself to get to them today, but I do think that they, if I was playing the lottery, I'd probably get to 5-10%, something like that. All right, Dodgers and Angels.
So this is what happens. This is welcome to DFS. Welcome to Dodgers played 4 straight or 5 straight games at Colorado. Did fine. It's not like they got shut out or anything like that. They scored runs, but they didn't really win anybody anything. Now they're going to come home and put up 15. Like that's basically the story. They don't really even rate, even with raw points, in the top 3 for me, which to me means that they're going to be pretty low owned. And I have them rated that way, sort of low owned. And it's like, I don't know, like I think you should have a little bit of them, and we talk about this a lot. I think you should have a little bit of them every slate. And if you get them at low ownership, you should certainly make sure to get a little bit of them. As far as the pitching goes, I'm really not getting to any of this stuff. I don't even, you could tell me about the Landon Knack, but he hasn't really. Well,
he's not going deep enough.
I don't know. He pitched 6 innings, couple of.
But it's really the pitch count that gets you worried there.
All right, they let him have 94. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not getting to it today. And again, the Dodgers are probably not going to get there by organically. I'll probably end up having to force them.
Yeah, I actually. Maybe I'm biased because I'm going to this game tonight, but
that's right. You're going. That's right.
Yeah, I think both stacks make some sense. And I like Knack. That's not that I hate him. I think that you've got cheap bats you can play on one side for the Angels. It's basically we're in real summer weather here. It's been hot, man. For us, like this game's going to be 78 degrees. The games early in the season, the Dodgers were playing at home were like 60. There's 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right center. Sandoval, who he's a guy who you can always sort of make the case to. He's always going to be low owned on everything. I wouldn't play him tonight. I'm saying, but like. In general, I feel like I'm always looking to potentially stack against him and to potentially use him. He gives up home runs. He can occasionally get very wild. This is not an ideal team to do that with. I just want to point out, though, the Dodgers, look, it's a big blow to lose a guy like Mookie. The guy's one of the best 5 hitters in baseball. And they're not, I don't think we should expect them to be quite as productive without him in general, especially against lefties. So if you wanted to fade them, if they're going to be too popular, that's the argument I'd make. But I don't think they're going to be that popular. So I like the Dodgers, and I like a little bit of the Angels. I like the Chanel. You can play a cheap if you wanted to go with him, or you can play the other cheap one in Willie Calhoun. You've got Logan O'Hoppe, who's guaranteed to hit a home run tonight because I feel like every time I mention his name, he does. So I kind of like the whole side of both sides of this game, which brings me to my priorities. I've got Cease, Paddock, Hertz, and then I've got sort of Sale, Kirby, Eovaldi all in consideration. For stacks, I like Colorado, Washington, but I wouldn't do the 5-man. The Dodgers, the Angels, followed by Toronto and Cleveland. That's where I'm at the moment.
I just ran a couple of Sabre sim builds, not with the Sims or anything, just to see what I would get. And pitching wise, it would be Rodon and Hertz, just based on projections and stuff. That's interesting for Hertz to actually show up as second most overall. I wouldn't have thought that, even though he had the big game. I didn't think it would work out that way. And and Rodon 26%. Again, sure, it's a great play, but someone else is going to play it except for me. What can I tell you?
Someone else can have it.
Good luck to you guys. As far as the hitting goes, like when I ran this, the top owned across the entire pool was Seattle, like 25% of that, and that's over 5,000 lineups though. So if I had to rank like the top 50, that I would be getting almost. Like Toronto would be clearly the top. So Toronto followed by Boston and Baltimore, and some Washington as well. But I like that I got to these same teams. So Toronto, Baltimore, Boston. I like all 3 of those. So that
I like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stacks out there today. I am planning to be here at 6 Eastern.
Ooh.
If you're going to be around. If you weren't, I was going to do it earlier, but I'm happy to do it at 6, and I'm probably going to have to jet around 6:20 just to make it to the game. We're going early and doing this whole thing.
Well, we could go at 5:30 if you want. You want to do that?
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Why don't we do it at 5:30 Eastern then?
Okay, perfect. 5:30 Eastern time.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. All right. Well, good luck to everybody today. We'll see you at 5:30 Eastern, and I'll